Let's say China.
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 China. China. China. China.
They're our next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump's statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes. Hello. And welcome. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the only news you need if you will not be attending the Nazi rally tonight in Gainesville, Florida. It's Thursday, the 19th of October 2017, and we're going to jump right in to Florida. Hundreds of people are outside the University of Florida right now protesting the white nationalist event that will be taking place there this evening, led by Dick, or as his parents call him, Richard Spencer, you little fuck. And that's actually true. His parents do call him that always. They say, Richard Spencer, you little fuck. They even wrote it on their Christmas cards. Richard Spencer, you little fuck. Happy Christmas. May it be a white one. Love, Mum and Dad. And in a pre-speech news conference this afternoon, Dick claimed that he was not, in fact, a white supremacist, and people were just not smart enough to understand that. So, Dick, I guess I count myself in that number of people who are just not smart enough to see where you are not a white supremacist. Leading chants of Jews will not replace us doesn't really give much weight to your argument, mate, I'm afraid. Now, the president of the University of Florida in Gainesville, W. Kent Fuchs, it's F-U-C-H-S. Now, how do you say that? Because I always see it and giggle because I think it's fucks. But it's probably not, is it? It's probably like foosh? Foosh, maybe? Fooshes? Well, anyway, the president of the University of Florida has told students to stay away from the event tonight, saying that Spencer and his followers just wanted to provoke a reaction. So we are hoping here at So This Happens that whatever happens tonight is very peaceful and nobody gets hurt, and also that nobody shows up. So when Dick gets up there, there'll sort of be a big empty stadium where he'll go, right, well, anyone want to go for a drink? White Russians it is then. So anyway, if you're down in Gainesville tonight and you're going there to protest, please do. That is absolutely essential, I think, that we do protest these sort of things. But be careful and be safe and be peaceful. You know, there's no reason to start fights over this. You have to sort of rise above them and say, yes, you're a little white supremacist fuck and you are pathetic. I am much better than that. Go home. I think your mummy has made dinner for you. It'll be waiting in your basement bedroom. Bye. And in a story that will truly melt your heart if you have one, a 74-year-old man in Utah has been walking for miles and miles with a sign on him saying he needs a kidney for his wife with his phone number. Now, when asked by news outlets why he was doing this walking up and down the highway, he said, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I needed to do something. And then the old dear responded with, I don't walk real fast. I love this. He's such a cute little man. This sounds a little bit condescending, doesn't it? Oh, he's such a cute little man. I want to squeeze his cheeks. But I do. I want to squeeze his cheeks. He's so damn cute. Now, he continued saying that his favourite time to walk is at rush hour because there are so many cars. And already on his first day out, a driver stopped to tell him that he would go and get tested to see if he was a match for this fella's wife. And he goes home to his wife every day and he says, Deanne, that's his wife's name, I think we have a good chance of getting you a kidney. I love it. This is so beautiful. We're going to try and follow this story actually for the next few days. It's really cool. And Mr. Winters has said that even after he gets Deanne a kidney, he plans to continue to keep doing this to help others search for a donor. It's so beautiful, and there's a phone number that you can call if you want to help Mr. Winters and his wife. It's 801-675-0278, and he's out in Utah, and I love this. I think he's what a fantastic human being. And from one little man whose cheeks I want to squeeze to another little man whose cheeks I want to squeeze. And this one is going to come as a bit of a surprise to you, but it's George W. Bush. Yeah, true story. Today he gave a speech at his namesake's institute in New York, and, well, it's not the sort of speech you'd really expect George W. to give. So I'm going to play it for you, and then I suspect that a few of you are going to want to give his little cheeks a squeeze as well.
Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication. There are some signs that the intensity of support for democracy itself has waned, especially among the young. We've seen our discourse degraded by casual cruelty. At times it can seem like the forces pulling us apart are stronger than the forces binding us together. Argument turns too easily into animosity. Disagreement escalates into dehumanization. Too often we judge other groups by their worst examples, while judging ourselves by our best intentions, forgetting the image of God we should see in each other. We've seen nationalism distorted into nativism. We've forgotten the dynamism that immigration has always brought to America. Bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed.
Now, what did I tell you, right? What did I tell you? How many of you want to give his cheeks a little squeeze right now? I know. I am speechless. Well, I'm not speechless. I'm very rarely speechless, but I'm really impressed. It was a really nice speech. And, you know, we know there's no love lost between George W. Bush and Donald Trump, but for him to go out there in public and give a speech like that, I love it. It shows some guts. Maybe he's making up for past evils. I don't know. And I think we're just going to keep the little speeches going, because there was another good one today from Tom Hanks, who he's getting on in years, but he's not quite old enough to have a squeeze of those little chubby cheeks just yet. But give him 10 years, Tom, I'm going to give them a squeeze, mate. I promise you. Well, today he was interviewed by the BBC, and most of what he talked about was Harvey Weinstein and the ramifications that that will have throughout Hollywood and also throughout the entire world. So let's have a listen to what Tom Hanks said.
This is a sea change. I think his last name will become a noun and a verb. It'll become an identifying moniker for a state of being for which there is a before and an after. We got to hear from everybody so that we understand how vast and how all-encompassing this was. That's A. B is, it's all got to change. Look, since when has this brand of common decency and professionalism been put on hold just because of sexual dynamics in the workplace? It's inexcusable. I think talking about it is the tip of the iceberg. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that's been the case. Everybody has stories about some aspect of the quote-unquote casting couch.
And it seems that Weinstein's troubles are just beginning. Today he was stripped of his BFI fellowship, the BFI, the British Film Institute. They stripped him of the award that they gave him back in 2002. And as I said the other day, I think this is going to be a really good, positive thing. So many people are now coming forward saying, look, this is happening and it shouldn't be happening and we need to stop this. And Tom Hanks was right there when he said, you know, talking, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So from talking, we have to move into action. And hopefully, and I think that's probably going to happen very soon. All good, positive stuff. And now, for a few moments, I just want to talk about pharmaceutical companies. Now, pharmaceutical companies have always been in the news. They're sort of one of those necessary evils, if you will. But the US pharmaceutical industry has a particular problem that doesn't seem to exist elsewhere in the world, and part of that is the politicians. Pharmaceutical companies spend far more than any other industry to influence politicians. Drug makers have used more than $2.5 billion investing into lobbying and funding members of Congress over the past 10 years. That's a huge amount of money. Mitch McConnell alone has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from pharmaceutical companies. Now, he's not alone. I just pick on him because I feel like picking on him today. Last year in the campaigns, over $20 million was donated from pharmaceutical companies to politicians. 60% of that went to Republicans, and Paul Ryan, or Jellyfish Boy as we like to call him, he was the largest beneficiary of pharmaceutical money. He received a total of $228,670. That's a lot of money. And of course, because these politicians are receiving all this money from the pharmaceutical companies, they are in many ways in their pockets, and they have to do pretty much exactly what the pharmaceutical companies want. Now, some of the things they do are sort of hidden from public eyes. There have been massive efforts on the behalf of American pharmaceutical companies to block competitors in India from making generic versions of the HIV or AIDS medication, and that would make it much more affordable to people in developing countries. But instead of that, now the politicians are saying, well, okay, we have to keep that here, so let's just, yeah, you guys can keep making it, that's fine. And because of a 2003 law that was enacted, pharmaceutical companies can charge whatever they want for the medications that they produce for programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. Now, because they are government-funded programs, the politicians just have no choice but to pay whatever the pharmaceutical companies are asking, and they don't really have a problem doing that because, remember, they just got a shitload of money into their campaign from the exact same companies that are saying, okay, that's going to cost $9,000 for that pill. Really, that's quite a lot of money, but okay, here you go, $9,000. And another thing that having politicians in your pocket is particularly handy for is making it so that you cannot import any drugs into the US. Now, the pharmaceutical companies are crying that it would endanger the quality and safety of medicines in the US. That's a little bit of a ridiculous thing because we're talking about countries like Britain, where they manufacture an EpiPen in Britain, and it costs, guess what, $70 for an EpiPen. Now, if you were to buy an EpiPen in the United States, the exact same drugs, just made by a US pharmaceutical company, that would cost you $600. But not only does it make drugs more expensive, but it also makes it so that they are more plentiful. The pharmaceutical companies want to sell drugs. That is their entire goal. That's how they make their money. Now, certain politicians may say, okay, let's look at the opioid crisis that we have here in the United States. We're giving out far too many opioid painkillers to people. But then the pharmaceutical companies are going to say, yes, but Mr. Politician, don't you remember when I just donated $100,000 to your campaign? Perhaps you could look the other way and say, carry on, dear boy. And of course, the politicians do that. They say, okay, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, that's fine, just keep the money coming. So in a sense, what this does, any politician who argues that the opioid crisis in America is getting out of hand and we need to stop these pharmaceutical companies from manufacturing quite as many of them, it makes it very difficult for them to do that, especially when they've taken a huge chunk of money from these companies. And so while Donald Trump has been sort of leading this call in the opioid crisis is out of hand and we need to do something about it, he also fails to mention that the pharmaceutical companies that manufacture OxyContin and other drugs were among the leading donors to his inauguration, alongside tobacco and oil companies. And the biggest donor was Pfizer, who are the manufacturer of, wait for it because this is too good, Viagra. They gave Donald Trump $1 million. Viagra. What does that tell you? I'm not just a beneficiary, I'm also a user. Anyway, we are out of time for the day. It was a good conversation as always, and we will do it all over again tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, which is superb. I can't believe it's the end of the week already, but I am thoroughly looking forward to the weekend. So listen, If you want to continue the conversation, we can do it on Twitter at So This Happen. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and recommend it to a friend. I always love it when new subscribers pop up. It really does make my day. Anyway, take care and be excellent. Good night.
All the things I should have seen, lost all the line, but I watched them pass. All the things I should have been,